The marble floors of the luxury apartment complex gleamed under designer lighting like polished diamonds. Each step Elena Chen took echoing through the hallway with the precision of a countdown. At 35, she moved through her world of glass and gold with the practiced grace of someone who had learned to wear wealth like armor. Her Hermes bag clutched against her side like a talisman against an uncertain world. The elevator carried her to the 28th floor, where apartment 2801 waited behind its mahogany door, a portal to what everyone believed was paradise. Elena fumbled with her golden keys, her hands trembling not from the weight of the metal, but from a premonition she couldn't name, couldn't shake, couldn't escape. "David?" she called into the silence as she entered their palace of chrome and crystal. The apartment breathed success from every surface. Italian leather sofas arranged with architectural precision, abstract paintings that cost more than most people's annual salaries, chandeliers that scattered light like captured stars. Yet something felt hollow, as if the very air had grown thin with the weight of maintaining perfection. Elena moved through their curated life, past the kitchen where golden fixtures guarded imported appliances, through the children's bedrooms where even childhood had been organized into museum-quality displays. Lily's room, neat as a hotel suite, showed no trace of a 10-year-old's chaos. Marcus's space, equally pristine, seemed more suited for photography than the messy business of being 6 years old. In the master bedroom, David's Rolex Submariner sat on the nightstand like a golden sun, its weight familiar, yet somehow foreign when she lifted it. This watch, symbol of their ascension into society's upper echelons, suddenly felt like an anchor dragging her toward depths she couldn't fathom. Behind the imported wine and designer luggage in their storage room, Elena discovered the truth that would shatter her world into a million irreparable fragments. David Chen, 38 years old, hung from a beam like a discarded puppet, his face peaceful in death, finally free from the golden chains he had forged for himself and his family. Her scream tore through the apartment, through the carefully constructed facade of their perfect life, echoing off walls that had witnessed too many conversations about mortgage payments disguised as dinner plans, too many moments when love had been suffocated by the desperate need to appear successful. The note in David's lifeless hand fluttered like a white flag of surrender. "I'm sorry. I thought I was giving you everything, but I was drowning us all. The debts, $2.3 million. I couldn't find another way. Take care of our treasures. D." 3 days. He had been gone for 3 days while she attended charity galas and business meetings, while she lived her choreographed life, never knowing that the foundation beneath her golden world had already crumbled. The lawyer's office smelled of mahogany and broken dreams. Mr. Harrison, whose fees alone could fund a small family's year, slid documents across his desk with the clinical precision of a surgeon delivering a terminal diagnosis. Credit cards, personal loans, the mortgage on the apartment, the car loan, he recited, his voice as cold as winter rain. David leveraged everything to maintain your lifestyle. The apartment will be foreclosed within 60 days. The car will be repossessed. Even the watch. It's collateral for a loan. Elena stared at the numbers that danced before her eyes like demons. $2.3 million in debt. Assets that existed only on paper. A life built on credit, extended against a future that would never come. The Rolex on her wrist, once a symbol of David's success at the bank, now felt like a shackle binding her to a sinking ship. "What about the children?" she whispered. "That," Mr. Harrison said, gathering his papers with the efficiency of someone who had delivered this news too many times. "That is no longer a legal matter. That's survival." Elena sat in her car, soon to be repossessed, in the parking garage beneath their apartment building, watching other residents come and go in their choreographed dance of prosperity. How many of them, she wondered, were dancing on the same razor's edge that had claimed her husband? How many were drowning in golden chains, too proud or too afraid to call for help? She thought of Lily and Marcus, currently at their private school, blissfully unaware that their world was about to collapse. How do you explain to children that everything they believed about security, about their place in the world, was built on quicksand? How do you tell them that their father, who tucked them into Egyptian cotton sheets every night, chose death over admitting failure? That evening, as movers carried away furniture that had never truly been theirs, Elena gathered her children in what remained of their living room. The space that had once showcased their success now echoed with emptiness, filled only with the cardboard boxes containing the remnants of their former life. "We're going on an adventure," she told them, her voice carrying strength she didn't yet feel. "We're going to learn what we really need to be happy." Lily, wise beyond her 10 years, studied her mother's face with the intensity of someone learning to read a new language. "Is Daddy coming on our adventure?" Elena knelt to their level, pulling them close, breathing in the scent of their innocence while she could still protect it. "Daddy is already on his own adventure now, but we're going to discover something amazing. We're going to find out how strong we really are." The one-bedroom apartment in the working-class district looked like it had been constructed from broken dreams and necessity. Paint peeled from its walls like dead skin, and the windows were eyes that had witnessed too many stories of struggle and survival. Elena stood before it, with 2 suitcases, all that remained of their former existence, while Lily and Marcus flanked her like small soldiers preparing for battle. 40 square meters of reality. The walls were thin enough to hear their neighbors' arguments and laughter. The carpet bore stains that told stories of previous tenants' victories and defeats. Elena set down their suitcases in what would become their new universe, cramped, honest, and unforgiving. "Where's my room?" Marcus asked, his 6-year-old voice small as a whisper in the empty space. "We'll share for now, baby," Elena replied, her words carrying hope she was still learning to feel. This is our new beginning. The first month passed like a fever dream of humiliation and discovery. Elena haunted employment agencies, her resume a monument to a life that no longer existed. Her MBA and years of managing charity events meant nothing to employers looking for someone willing to work for survival wages rather than status. She watched her children adapt with the resilience that she was slowly learning to admire rather than pity. Lily helped Marcus with homework at their card table, which served as a desk, dining surface, and Elena's office. They slept together on an air mattress, while Elena sat by the window, watching city lights that no longer looked like diamonds, but like other people's small victories against the darkness. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening, surrounded by bills that multiplied like weeds. Elena sat with David's Rolex in her palm, its weight no longer representing success, but choice between clinging to the symbols of her former life or embracing the uncertain path toward authenticity. The pawn shop window displayed other people's surrendered dreams, wedding rings, musical instruments, electronics, all the things people loved enough to own, then needed enough to sell. Elena entered carrying the watch like an offering to the gods of necessity. 2,000, the weathered shop owner said after examining it through his magnifying glass. It cost 15,000, Elena protested, her voice echoing with the ghost of her former life. That was retail, lady. This is reality. Reality. The words settled over her like dust, coating everything she thought she knew about value, about worth, about what mattered. She nodded, understanding that reality operated on a different currency, one that measured worth not in price tags, but in the capacity to endure, to adapt, to find meaning in the margins of existence. With the watch money, Elena began transforming their space, not with luxury, but with love. She hung curtains made from fabric remnants, arranged their sparse furniture to create the illusion of separate rooms, built forts of blankets where the children could pretend they were explorers rather than refugees from their former life. She enrolled in night classes at the community college, learning bookkeeping, while Lily watched Marcus. Her days became a choreography of survival, part-time work at a grocery store where her hands learned the honesty of physical labor, walks everywhere because bus fare was a luxury, cooking from scratch because necessity became the mother of both invention and nourishment. 6 months into their new life, as Elena helped Marcus with his math homework while Lily read in the corner, their small apartment had transformed into something she had never expected: home. Not through expensive furnishings or designer touches, but through the alchemy of persistence, love, and the gradual understanding that richness had nothing to do with possessions. "Mom," Lily said, looking up from her book, "are we poor now?" Elena considered the question, looking around at their modest but warm space, at their children who had learned resilience without losing their capacity for joy, at the life they had built together from honest materials. "We have less money than before," she said carefully, "but we're not poor. We have each other, we have food, we have a home. Poor is when you have nothing that matters." "Did Daddy think we were poor?" Marcus asked, his innocent question cutting through Elena like a blade forged from truth. Elena paused, seeing David's ghost in the reflection of their single window,
always chasing the next upgrade, the next symbol of success, never able to see the wealth that surrounded him in the form of family, health, love, and the simple miracle of being alive in a world that offered infinite opportunities for joy if one knew where to look. "Daddy was sick, baby," she said finally. "He couldn't see that we were already rich."
Late that night, Elena sat by the window with a cup of tea warming her hands, watching the city move with its eternal rhythm of struggle and hope. Below, people hurried through their lives, each carrying their own burdens and dreams, their own definitions of success and failure. She opened a notebook and began to write, not bills or budgets, but thoughts, observations, lessons learned from falling and discovering that the ground, while hard, was also solid. Her handwriting flowed like water, finding its natural path, carrying stories of resilience, of learning to distinguish between what glitters and what is actually gold. The day I found my husband hanging in our storage room, I thought my life was ending. I didn't realize it was actually beginning. The words came from a place deeper than memory, from the marrow of experience, from the understanding that sometimes our greatest defeats become our most powerful victories when we learn to transmute pain into purpose. 1 year after David's death, Elena stood before a group of women in a community center, her notebook open like a map of surviving shipwreck. The space was humble, folding chairs, fluorescent lighting, coffee in styrofoam cups, but it pulsed with the authentic life that her former existence had always lacked. "My name is Elena, and I want to tell you about the day I discovered that everything I thought I owned actually owned me." The women leaned forward, recognizing something in her voice that resonated with their own struggles, their own questions about worth and value, and the price of trying to appear successful while drowning in the effort. She told them about the apartment that felt like a beautiful tomb, about the car that was really a golden cage, about the watch that ticked away not time, but authentic moments of connection. She spoke about learning to cook with love instead of expense, about discovering that her children's laughter was the most valuable sound in any room, regardless of how that room was furnished. "You don't move on from tragedy," she said in response to a question about healing. "You move through it. Every day you choose to breathe, to stand, to take one step forward into a life that might look different from what you planned, but that can be more honest, more meaningful, more genuinely yours." Maria, a woman whose eyes carried familiar shadows, raised her hand. "How do you know if you're being grateful or if you're just settling?" Elena smiled, the question touching something she had wrestled with during many sleepless nights. Grateful feels like expansion, like breathing room in your chest. Settling feels like holding your breath, waiting for something to change. When you're truly grateful, you're not waiting for anything. You're fully present with what is, and what is becomes enough. When Elena returned home that evening, she found Lily and Marcus building an elaborate blanket fort, their laughter filling their small space with music richer than any expensive sound system could produce. Their apartment glowed with warmth that no amount of designer lighting could replicate. "How was your speech, Mom?" Lily asked, her 11-year-old face showing wisdom that came not from books, but from witnessing her mother transform pain into purpose. "It was good, sweetheart. I think I helped some people remember something they had forgotten." "What did they forget?" Elena sat cross-legged on the floor, joining their architectural endeavors. "They forgot that the most valuable things can't be bought, or sold, or stolen. They can only be recognized, treasured, and shared." 6 months later, Elena's manuscript, The Weight of Gold, a memoir of loss, learning, and love, sat displayed in bookstore windows, not because it promised easy answers, but because it offered honest questions about what constitutes a life well lived. She spoke at corporate events about the hidden costs of materialism, appeared on television programs discussing the epidemic of debt-driven despair, and received letters from readers thanking her for showing them a different way to measure success. But the moment that crystallized her transformation came on an ordinary Tuesday evening as the family sat around their card table for dinner. Not gourmet cuisine, but food prepared with love and seasoned with gratitude. Marcus, now 7 and wise beyond his years, looked up from his plate and asked, "Mom, are we rich now?" Elena paused, considering the question with the same seriousness she would give to any important financial decision. She looked around at her children, healthy and happy, at their small but loving home, at the life they had built together from honest materials and authentic choices. Outside their window, the city sparkled with lights that looked like earthbound stars, each one representing a life, a story, a human being struggling and hoping and choosing to continue. Some of those lights shone from apartments like the one she used to inhabit, where people were probably sitting in beautiful rooms, counting the cost of maintaining their golden cages. Others glowed from spaces like theirs, modest but real, where families were discovering that wealth comes not from what you possess, but from your capacity to love, to learn, to find meaning in both triumph and tragedy. "Yes, baby," Elena said, her voice carrying the certainty of someone who had learned to measure wealth in the currency that truly matters. "We're the richest people in the world." She pulled her children close, understanding finally that gold is not what glitters in store windows or adorns wealthy wrists. Gold is the laughter of children who feel safe, the warmth of a home built on truth, the strength found in vulnerability, and the wealth discovered not in what you own, but in what owns you. Love, purpose, and the unshakable knowledge that you are enough, exactly as you are. In the distance, thunder rumbled, promising rain, but Elena no longer feared storms. She had learned that sometimes the sky must break open for the light to get in, and that the most beautiful gardens grow not in spite of the rain, but because of it. The weight of gold had nearly destroyed her family, but the weight of truth, of love, of authentic living, that was a burden she was strong enough to carry and wise enough to know was actually wings.